Nick Reed, who I met on Couchsurfing, said that we could meet at his house at 7 on this evening. So when I woke up and drove to LA and got there at about 11, 1, I had lots of time to kill.
Has tried to convince a number of human bodies. They just be...
Alright. In San Francisco, I had bought a map, and then kicked myself later to find out that you could get them for free on the street. I decided that I would try to find a free one on the street here in LA, a map of all of LA, which is a county, not just a little city. I drove around and got off the highway at some point. I think I was in West Hollywood. I drove past this club that said Black Light. I thought I recognized it. It's not as if New York City burned down. I used my atlas to try to figure out where the neighborhood of Silver Lake was, because I heard that's where all the cool kids were at. I found my way there, ended up at a library, used their Wi-Fi for a while, and asked the librarians if there were any bookstores around. A young, hip-looking guy told me about an independent bookstore he was familiar with. Though I didn't succeed at finding this independent bookstore, I did succeed at finding a whole strip of cute little shops and boutiques. I went in some of them, including a comic book store, and bought a couple of handmade comic books. After I had wasted most of the day, I decided to drive to Nick Reed's house. He lives somewhere outside of Culver City. The directions were a little confusing, and they just said to get off on the street, not to turn right or left on the street. So when I got off the exit, I ended up driving way too far. When I started going up some hills, I realized that I was not going the right direction. I turned around and found that his apartment was maybe 2 blocks from the exit I had gotten off of. When I got to his apartment, which was beautifully decorated with a Middle Eastern flair, he was playing the soundtrack from Wes Anderson's The Darjeeling Limited. And though he's blonde, he even reminded me a little bit of Jason Schwartzman. After we got settled, he decided to call his friend Alec over to come have dinner with us. We were going to hunt down a taco truck. In the meantime, I started going through his books. He had several David LaChapelle monographs. He saw me admiring them and we discussed it briefly. Apparently, the reason that Nick Reed is in LA is because he used to work for David LaChapelle. Jealous. Nick grew up on a sheep ranch in Wyoming and went to school in Colorado. He then landed an internship with David LaChapelle via one of his professors. The internship went so well that he scored a job. When Alec came over, I was reminded of my friend Grady from Albany. Alec is Grady times Hollywood. For more people math, link in the doobly-doo. We drove up one street for a very long time until we found one. I don't know if the people in the taco truck spoke English, but I spoke to them in Spanish, and I ordered 2 tacos with sour cream and avocado. Quiero 2 tacos de pollo con aguacate y crema. ¿Hay aguacate? Sí, hay aguacate. My tacos were still only $1 a piece, and Nick and Alec were very impressed by my taco ordering skills. Mind you, this next day was the day of the Michael Jackson funeral in LA. Where am I again? Oh right, LA. So you had to put in for tickets. Oh, that's what I was doing at the library. I was checking to see if I had won tickets to Michael Jackson services. I didn't win. Alec did win. I decided that the next day I would go down to the Staples Center anyway. I figured there would be some craziness outside and it should be entertaining. And it was. This girl was a killer Michael Jackson impersonator.
$10 a picture. Love your hair, it's nice.
Thank you.
Perfect with that face. Right on the wall. You'll be the only chick magnet on the planet.
And up until this point, from Seattle until LA, I had seen loads of people selling Michael Jackson paraphernalia. Exploitation! I won't buy a t-shirt. It's a rule of mine. From anyone. Anywhere on the West Coast. But everyone's selling them. So I'm just recording them. No quiero. This really annoyed me. But I guess you'd expect to see it here. Later on in the day, I would find out that if I had only arrived at the Staples Center earlier, I would have gotten let in. It turns out that many of the people who had won tickets had no intention of coming. They lived in other countries, and the stadium was half empty. After I was done being around the Staples Center, I started heading to the Fashion District. I've been looking for some gauzy jersey fabric, and I figured that this would be the place to find it. On my way, I heard some hobos discussing Michael Jackson. One of them cursed Joe Jackson's name.
I did take the bus to come home. Actually, to tell you the truth, I'm lying.
Though I did buy some flowery fabric, I found no gauzy jersey fabric. After this, I decided I would climb the Hollywood Hill. I think that this was the first thing that started killing my car. I did get pretty close, and I got to take some stupid pictures. After that, I headed to Venice Beach. I parked my car on a side street and walk around. Venice Beach is kind of kitschy. There's lots of people selling crazy things, and everything is sort of... I guess it's sort of Haight-Ashbury times the beach, plus street vendors. I got hungry and I stopped to get a sandwich somewhere. As I was waiting for them to make it, I was sitting in a little courtyard. A woman came out and grabbed me. I guess she was closing her little shop, and she wanted me to come in and see if I wanted anything. Cheap, it's all cheap, she said. She convinced me to buy a little dress that I never would have bought otherwise. After this, I went back to Nick Reed's house. A girl was there. Girlfriend? Nope, ex-girlfriend. Still good friends. I diddled around on my computer, transferring videos from my camera to my hard drive, and to look up whether or not I had missed the location of that wall in front of which Elliott Smith is photographed on his album Figure 8. Indeed, it's in Silver Lake, where I was. How'd I miss it? Nick made us dinner. Spaghetti and chicken, which he referred to as bachelor food. The next day, he was supposed to go to the airport early. His friend was supposed to drive him there, but his friend wasn't calling him back. You know, I said, I have to be out of your house anyway. Why don't I just give you a ride to the airport? Are you sure? He said. Yeah, no problem. I'd really enjoyed his company, but I was trying to lay low. I didn't want to overwhelm him. I had no idea how he felt about me, so when I dropped him off at the airport and he gave me a hug and he told me that he really enjoyed having me and that I could come back anytime, I was happy.